What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Bitcoin Cash today. Shout out to the Dragon Riders and the House of the Dragon. Here we are, my friends, at about $600 on this, the 23rd day of August. It's a brand new day. Yes, we're fresh in the new day here. 23 hours left, a little bit over that. $597 is the price, and we did the thing, you guys. We did the thing yesterday, the 22nd. We got the close just under 600 to be fair, but I think the price we needed was just under 600. It was like 598 high to low. Yeah, the golden ratio was at 598. No, sorry, 597. The closing price we got was at 599, so that's perfect. We closed right above the golden ratio there. I think today is a good day to reflect, maybe come back down to about 586. Hell, we could even go to 576 and then come back up. The goal would be, no matter how low we go, to come back up by the end of the day and close the day green. So hopefully we can do that. Maybe we just keep pushing through. We get 2 green days in a row to close above 600 or 597, and there's very little chance that we go below this low. And in fact, I would think that, just with this reaction overall that we've had, the same type of reaction that we've had throughout every single time that we've been at this low area with this trend line, it's the same type of reaction. We don't hang out too long down here. We move up rather fast. It tells me that we're looking for a new relative high. Okay, new relative high in accordance to this trend line. So that high was at 632. Maybe we go to 700. Maybe we go to 645. Maybe we rip all the way up to prices that are over $1,000. Every attempt that we make, right, ever since we've been above this trend line. Let's see, that's not the trend line that I'm thinking about right here. I mean, maybe even that trend line on a short-term time frame, but I'm thinking about the MAC data here. Ever since that we've been above this trend line, we've broken out, okay? We've been waiting, anticipating heavily that this phenomenal breakout move will take place. It's going to ensue, right? With each wick higher, with each move higher, week after week, excluding this 1 week here where we didn't get that. Each attempt, I think that the percentage that we're going to get that massive move, the biggest move potentially that we've ever seen in Bitcoin Cash's life, in its whole history, if not certainly the biggest move that we've seen this cycle, I think is setting itself up. And again, that statistical probability that the move is happening now is higher with each attempt up that we have. So this really could be it, you guys. Not only is this an opportunity to buy Bitcoin Cash below $600 right here at $596, but this could be the final days below $700, $800, below $1,000. We really are in that time right now where I think Bitcoin Cash is about to see some explosive, utterly magnificent price performance, okay, over the coming days, weeks, by the end of September. I think Bitcoin Cash is going to be put on the map like it hasn't ever been before. And I want to go over that right now. I want to look at the BCH BTC chart, okay? BCH BTC. We talk about this all the time, and it's funny. It's kind of funny because this chart is nothing to be proud of, right? Well, I shouldn't say that. As of now, it's actually something I think to be at least curious with and has the potential to be something to be proud of. But throughout most of its life, it's just been a straight downtrend, man. Lower lows, lower highs. Absolutely no argument there, right? We've gotten beaten the hell up versus BTC. It's prevailed dominant. Hell, even the Ethereum to BTC and XRP to BTC charts don't look like this. The Tron BTC chart doesn't look like this, right? At least they've got some kind of range. BCH BTC has just been in a trend, straight trend down. But the thing is this trend is coming to an end, and you can see it. If you told me, hey, I have a stock or a crypto that I'd like to buy, and you didn't tell me what it was, you just showed me this chart, I would look at it and be like, dude, and you told me it was on a weekly time frame, I'd say, okay, so there's going to be some excitement in the near term, right? But the good stuff is going to happen probably years out from now, right? Probably years out from now. Like we're talking, if we're looking at this here, 2025, 2027, 2028, you're going to be retracing most of this, right? Not only, like, if we look at this price here, we're at less than 1% of a Bitcoin, okay? Inevitably, we're going to see 3%, we're going to see 5%, we're going to see 12%. Whatever this value is here, and like if I didn't know what this was, I'd be like, whatever this value is, 12 cents, 12%, whatever it is, you look like you want to reverse this whole trend and see at least some kind of standard retracement, right? The standard retracement that I would expect on any account would be the golden ratio, okay? The golden ratio from an all-time high to an all-time low. Very epic Fibonacci retracement here, something that I would expect to be respect, absolutely. You've had prior respect on the 236 before this low in, so it's not really relevant. But the fact that we have resistance there does tell me that we probably come up here and find resistance there. Okay, and we'll calculate that and we'll factor that in a second. But I just want to go over again the grand kind of plot here is that Bitcoin Cash. Not this cycle. I mean, maybe this cycle, but the way that it looks, right, it's got this like long kind of grandiose rounded bottom. I would think that it transitions the same way out, and maybe the way up is faster than the way down, but I would expect it transitions the way out. We might be in 2027 that we're up at this golden ratio area, or even beyond 2027 that we're in that golden ratio area, right? Or maybe before, maybe you come up like this, and that's your scheme, whatever. It's really just in accordance to the lows, but nonetheless, I would think the latest, maybe I should say, is 2028, 2027 that we would be at this golden ratio zone. Okay, so what does that mean, right? Not financial advice, not a financial advisor, but again, looking at this, if I had no idea what this was, I would say this thing is long-term in an accumulative phase. It's an absolute massive accumulative phase. If you think about Bitcoin, whether you like Bitcoin or you hate Bitcoin, if you're of a, I would say at least a reasonable mind, we would assume that Bitcoin itself, BTC, does continue to grow over time. Whatever its value is right now, August 23rd, 2025, it's at $117,000. It will likely be more come August 23rd in 2027 or 2028, right? Likely it will be worth more. We haven't seen the finale phase yet. I actually doubt that Bitcoin, even during the bear market, comes back to prices that are even at these lows. So I think that we will only be worth more in 2027, 2028. If Bitcoin Cash is worth 6.4% of Bitcoin today, and it won't be worth it today. This is 2027, 2028. But if it was worth that price today, 6.4%, that would give us a price that's over $7,000, right? Or at least around $7,000, something like that. I'm just doing quick math. Maybe it's just under $7,000. I don't know. Whatever 117 times 0.00 or 0.0644 would be, or maybe even up to 9%, 9.2%. That would be a serious amount of money, especially from here. $596, that'd be $6,000. But hold up now, Bitcoin itself is going to be worth more than this in a couple of years. How much is it going to be worth? I don't know. 200,000, 400,000, 500,000, maybe in 2028, 2030, it's worth $1 million. Who knows? If it's worth $1 million in 2030 and Bitcoin Cash is at least at 6%, what's 6% of $1 million? That's $60,000. You guys, we have a 100x asset here over time. And it's not a guarantee, nothing is, but damn it if it isn't at the same time. Like this is one of the most secure 100x bets that you can have for the long term at this price. And even at higher prices, even at like double the price from here, triple the price from here, over time, it's going to see some intense growth. Okay, absolutely. If Bitcoin can get to $117,000, Bitcoin Cash can. All right, absolutely. It might trail behind for a second, but what about the long term? We're talking about the midterm kind of, right? The next couple of years, the next few years. What about the long term, like the next 10 years? What if Bitcoin Cash comes up and actually hits its all-time highs or even exceeds that? We see half the valuation of Bitcoin. We see the valuation of Bitcoin. We can test it, right? We'll probably have some serious resistance once we get up here, but inevitably, if we can hit extensions, we might even be worth more than Bitcoin at some point in time. I might lose some people on that, right? Not the Dragon Riders, not the people who are Bitcoin Cash faithfuls. Everybody believes that Bitcoin Cash is going to overtake Bitcoin at some point. It's just fundamentals, man. It really is just fundamentals. Bitcoin itself, BTC has the what is it? The price action. Bitcoin Cash has the fundamentals. That's what it has. If we're looking at this here, though, it's just a fantastic chart. It really is a fantastic chart. It's terrible overall, actually. If we're looking at this, it's very terrible. But what's happening is fantastic. Why I say it's fantastic is this is the exact kind of chart that I look for myself in US dollar pairs. If I see a crypto that looks like this, I would love to buy. Dude, you're buying here before this like central point here. Before you see a higher high, you're buying at one of the best, and obviously it's at all-time lows, you're buying at one of the best prices that you're ever going to get, at least versus Bitcoin. And as we move higher, as Bitcoin Cash does what I think it's going to do, where are we going to go, right? We take this high here, getting back to the TA instead of just painting a story, instead of buttering the bread, as I like to say. High to low here, the 236 is at about 1% of a Bitcoin. Let's just round it up and say 1%. Maybe you wick up like you did here. You wick up a little bit. Let's say Bitcoin Cash goes to 1% of a Bitcoin. Well, what's Bitcoin's valuation going to be, come like the next month and a half or so. I would assume that Bitcoin itself is probably going to be worth about $170,000 to $190,000, somewhere up there. So 1% of that would be about $1.8 to $1.9 thousand on the BCH USD pair. Now that's great. That's fantastic, right? That in my opinion is the standard, right? We're going to see something of about 200% growth to a 230% growth, right? Something like that. That's the standard. That's at a minimum what I would expect just based on this very realistic, I wouldn't even say conservative, I wouldn't say optimistic, I would say just very realistic expectation to go back up to this area, okay? And assuming that Bitcoin goes to about 170 to 190K, that gives us a $1,700 to $1,900 price area, okay, to expect. And that is roughly a 200% growth, okay, either direction that you go. What if I'm not bullish enough? What if the turning of this tide is happening now and we show it by getting a higher high? What if we go all the way up to the 382 or somewhere in between the 382 and the 236? You know, it's not going to be too crazy, but at a 2% valuation versus Bitcoin, which is at the 382 there, 2% is a whole world's difference than 1% whenever it comes to what the US dollar would be, right? Instead of $1,700 to $1,900, we're talking about, would that be 2,800? No, sorry, 3,400? 17, yeah, 34, right? Yeah, 34. 3,400 to, would that be, why can't I do math right now? 3,800. 34 to 3,800 essentially. That's a world's difference. And 34 to 3,800, let's see, if we take this from a last cycle high to a bear market low here, prior cycle high to low, and I don't think I was at the high, I think this is the high actually. 3,600 is right there, man. That's right at the 1272. And again, I'm using these like very specific numbers, like perfect on the T. Maybe Bitcoin's a little bit more valuable, and that, you know, at a 2% valuation, that boosts the Bitcoin Cash valuation. Instead of it being 3,400, it's at 3,650. I guess that's in the range though, right? We said 34 to 3,800. Sorry, I'm getting all confused, but the 1272 makes sense with BCH BTC being at the 382 if Bitcoin itself is at $180,000 or so, right? If Bitcoin's at a higher price, Bitcoin Cash should be at a higher price. Maybe this valuation goes up even higher than that, and we're at an even higher price than that. I'm not saying that I expect us to go to the 382. I'm just open to the idea. Again, this all stems from the fact that we're breaking out of this multi-cycle downtrend. Bitcoin Cash USD, we're finally breaking out of this trend that you've been in. And I say downtrend, it's a consolidation phase. It's a downtrend from the upside, it's an uptrend from the downside. It's not a downtrend, it's a consolidation phase, right? This is what I mean. And I'm not cherry picking. I think you're cherry picking if you call it a downtrend. I'm just being literal, right? I wouldn't call it an uptrend even though it has higher lows. I wouldn't call it a downtrend even though it has lower highs. It's a consolidation phase. You're breaking out of this lifelong consolidation phase. Being conservative or even realistic, assuming the 236 hits, that would give us a price of about $1,800, give or take $100 in either direction, right? And that's fair. I think that's a fair expectation to have. But we're also in uncharted territory, so to speak. What if we see some kind of miraculous bullish pump? We're in uncharted territories, so to speak, whenever it comes to the BCH BTC chart. What if this, because it's been beaten up so much, we're finally showing signs of strength and reversal even? What if we get a miracle pump, man, that just takes us all the way up to this 382? I'm not kidding. We could see this thing being worth multiple thousands of dollars, even over $3,000, over the next 6 to 8 weeks. And the thing is, it might seem crazy to some people. Maybe it seems deserved to some people, but it might seem crazy. But I would bet that once it's up here, regardless if it's September or October or sometime by the end of the year, it's probably going to be by the end of the year at least, or at the latest, I would say. We're all going to think, man, I wish I bought more. We knew it was going here. We knew it was going to happen. Maybe there were some doubts interlaid in those beliefs, but still we knew. And yet we're going to be like, man, why didn't I buy more? Why do I have a car? Why do I have an Xbox? Why don't I have 5 jobs? You know what I mean? Like, why don't I sell my mouth? $596 right now, though. Looking at this here, I guess I kind of do that daily with this, though, right? Kind of. Anyways, $596 now, getting away from the story that we're painting. I'm just saying, man, we don't know what we're dealing with. This could be absolutely miraculous. It could be, and the thing is, going to this target area, 1800, 17 to 1900, going there, I think that's a rather tame breakout. Personally, I think that's a rather tame breakout because what we have, And from what I know, what do I know? I've been doing technical analysis for almost 10 years now, okay? But from a high to a low, you hit the golden ratio once, twice like this, and you come up into it the third time, you don't have to stop at the 786, 886 area. I used to, in my analysis, I used to think that meant that you had to go there, but and over the years, I've actually learned that that's not the case. I don't know where I learned that from, but that's not the case. In my experience, actually, from what I've seen, the more that you interact with this area, once you break out, you typically do go through. Like, you go through the 786, 886. Maybe you stop at the 100, maybe you stop at the 1272. But something in this area, I think, is more of the expectation. And that's totally appropriate to assume. So again, 16 to 1900, 17 to 1900, I think is a tame and even like a standard expectation to have. What if we aren't tame at all? What if this thing is just more than what we expect it to be, or exactly what we expect it to be, maybe for some people, right? I think that this thing could do phenomenal. It could absolutely see some phenomenal growth in a very short amount of time. And even if we only get to 1800, boohoo, whatever, that's still phenomenal. We're still showing a difference in trend, not just on the US dollar chart, but on the BCH BTC chart as well, okay? Looking at this here on the weekly time frame, looking at these indicators, the weekly RSI is ready, man. Bouncing off the overbought zone, that is a powerful, absolutely powerful signal right there. The stochastics are bouncing off the overbought zone. Double that power. We've crossed above the zero on the MACD, and we're still building. Beautiful. We are bullish on all fronts on the weekly time frame, okay? We take the MA ribbon, the moving average exponential ribbon here, okay? Exponential moving average ribbon. On a weekly time frame, we're crossed up. We're looking good. We're even getting some expansion. Notice how the ribbon here, it was nice and tight, but as we start to expand, we start to grow more, right? Nice and tight here, but as we expand to the downside, we start to grow more to the downside, or decay more, whatever you want to, whatever word would be appropriate. We look at the monthly ribbon, and this is where things get truly miraculous. You know, we haven't looked at the ribbon on the BCH BTC chart. I'm curious. Let's throw that on there, okay? We'll do that in a second. This crossing, I mean, guys, to me, this says it all. I could have seen nothing else. I could have said nothing else. And this right here, it is a matter of time. We are moments, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months right now of green in a row. I think we're going for 7 months green in a row. I think we're going for 9 months, 10 months, 11 months, maybe 13 months of green in a row. Some kind of odd number. Typically, that's kind of how it happens, right? Like, look back here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 green months in a row, you see? And then on the 8th month, you actually topped off. Here, 1, 2, 3 green months in a row, you see? You see how that happens, right? Not always, but if it's an even number, 1, 2, 3, 4, it's weaker, right? That's kind of the rule of thumb. That's like from the TD sequential, if I remember correctly, or some kind of something like that. It's like a superstition. Don't treat it as like a law, but kind of. It just tends, it's a commonality in things for whatever reason. Typically, you would expect something like this maybe to end on the 7th or 9th or 11th month, okay? 7th month, if we're on the 5th month now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 would put us in October. We're going to continue to grow until October. I wouldn't be surprised if we did. I want to look at this on BCH BTC. I want to put up the ribbon because I don't think we've ever done that. Or maybe we have, but it's been a while. I just can't remember doing it. I'm curious as to what this looks like. It's probably terrible on the weekly. Okay, yeah, pretty bad. But look at this, right? We've gotten we've never seen this before, a bullish cross like this, twice even, right? We're about to get a bullish cross here. You guys, this might be the key right here. Whenever the weekly ribbon crosses, whenever it finally crosses, which at this point, it's going to happen in September. If we keep growing at this pace, it's going to happen in September, which means that we're only going to pick, when the ribbon crosses, you get a very bullish finish, okay? Or you start off bullish beforehand, but I mean, look at that. You had a bullish move here, and then once it crossed, boom, you erupted, right? We're moving up at a nice pace. We haven't even crossed yet. I wonder what the monthly looks like. How far away are we? Super bearish ribbon overall, but it's starting to condense, which is, you know, more than I can say for most of its history. We got a lot to go, and the top of this ribbon's all the way up here. It's going to keep coming down, so let's project out, you know, September, October. Let's just say it's like this right over here, maybe down a little bit. That's 1.4%. Again, what happens if we don't stop at 1%? What happens if maybe we don't stop at 2%, but we go somewhere in between? You know what I mean? We don't go to the 382 or the 236. We stop at somewhere in between. We get a higher high. That could happen. That could absolutely happen. We could stop right there. That's fine. And that's at the top of the ribbon. Maybe we find some resistance there, some turbulence there. And again, with that wouldn't give us a $3,000 price. That'd give us a price that's between $3,000 and $2,000 if Bitcoin's at 180K or around there, right? Just all these things, all these thoughts here. It's not so common, like typically you stop in these shallow ends of the ribbon. It's not so common to kind of stop in the middle of the ribbon. You'd either stop in the shallow ends or you go up to the very deep end or you break through it. And we flirted so much with it right now. I would think that we go into the deep ends of it. That's personally what I would expect. 3-day time frame, crossed up, of course, looking very bullish on the Bitcoin pair. This is probably the most relevant chart to look at, right? That's super bullish on the daily time frame as well. Fantastic, my friends. All I got to say is I'm excited to see what happens. I'm expecting that we do continue to grow. I don't think that it's even appropriate really for me to call for like, okay, we're at 596 now. The next target is $600. The next target is $730, whatever it might be. You know, I could take this relative high here to this relative low and say that the 1272 is at 827, the 1618 is at 147. Here's your targets, your primary target zone, and then here's your secondary target zone. And of course, yes, I think that we will stop in the secondary target zone. But I don't think it's appropriate really to guess where this thing's going to go next. Because for all I know, it could be worth 3,700. It could be worth 5,000. What if we're not bullish enough? What if because it's been beaten up so bad, it's been, I want to even say ridiculed. It's been passed over. There's been so much accumulation going on. What if that supply shock just sends this thing through the stratosphere and we're at $10,000 by the end of the year? You know, I don't want to limit it to these predictions because again, what we're doing here, what's going on all these fronts is truly miraculous, and we haven't reaped the rewards of that. Would it be miracality? What's the word for that? Miraculousness. We haven't reaped the rewards for it, but we're about to. And I think that between now and the end of this year, I mean, hell, man, I wouldn't be surprised if between now and the end of the year, every single month closed green. I wouldn't be surprised at all. You know, it's the 5th month now on August, so 9, 10, 11, 12, we got 4 months left. That'd be 9 months of green in a row. We could go into 2026 and still not even have a red month. This thing is about to get explosive in the most fantastic way. And I can't wait to see what happens. I got nothing else. I hope you guys liked the video. If you did, hit the like button. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this. With everything being said, we're at 596 now. If we were to come down and look at this too on Coinbase, man, we haven't had a gap in so long. Is that ominous? Do we have to go down and fill that gap? Maybe. Maybe we do. You know, maybe this was a big fake out, psyop, and we got the bullish news, buy the hype, sell the news, right? I don't know. Maybe. You know, we got the bullish news with Jerome Powell. That's what I'm saying there. So maybe we come back down, but I don't know. It is very possible, you guys. It is very possible that we can still go down. Again, we haven't technically confirmed that this is the low until we close 2 days above $598, okay? We close 2 days in a row above there, in a row, not 2 days. 2 days in a row, we validate this as low. Until then, sure, it is possible that we could come back down. I mean, after all, we look at these Bitcoin liquidations over the past day. There are a ton of longs. There's like $4 billion in longs that have been piled on, and a lot of shorts have been cleared out. But what I will say is I have a hard time seeing this be like a market-wide fake out, personally, only because the number 2 crypto, Ethereum, which doesn't have anything to do with Bitcoin Cash, but maybe kind of to a certain degree, right? If Ethereum's doing well, altcoins do well. Bitcoin Cash has nothing to do with Ethereum, but still, you know, in the presence of bullishness, other altcoins kind of come up. Ethereum basically saw new all-time highs today, and we're on the precipice of seeing new all-time highs. I have a hard time imagining that Ethereum came up in such a fantastic way to give it all back. The only way that would happen is if Bitcoin gave it all back. The only way that Bitcoin Cash would come down here is if Bitcoin gave it all back. You know what I mean? So Ethereum kind of gives me faith that the price action is real for Bitcoin. Therefore, the price action is real for Bitcoin Cash, and we've got some serious growth ahead of us. But I don't know. Time will tell. Other than that gap, I don't really have any problems with Bitcoin Cash, and it's on the 1 hour time frame, to be fair. So it's not as serious as some other time frames. But still, we haven't had a gap in a very long time, showing again that supply shock, you guys. That supply shock is real. That's like literally. I mean, dude, you have a gap on what's Bitcoin Cash's market cap right now? We have a gap on an asset that's multiple billions, $11.8 billion, had $519 million injected into it as far as volume goes over the past 24 hours. And you have a gap that size on a 24-hour asset, right? Like, that's crazy. That's pretty crazy to me, man. Like, that's low market cap, low liquidity stuff. See, Binance had it. Coinbase showing their lack of liquidity, probably. You know, I'm just saying, at least for Bitcoin Cash. But I got nothing else, guys. I'm just rambling at this point, so I'm going to end the video there. Hit the like button, subscribe. I'll see you on the next one. Take care of yourselves. All right, bye-bye.